Now just hold on a second here. Because this, water is now dry, I think. And dynamite is safe. And the sky is down. And we drink sand. Because Bill Belichick wasn't surly? I understand Bill Belichick does have a female companion. I mean, which, reminds you of quotes that Reggie Hammond once said. I'll be honest with you there. But you get the circumstance where he must have some other part of his personality that, Hey, I'm Marky Bilson, your voice of choice for a new generation of Tri-City sports fans. Name of the program is Tri-City Sports Now. We're on 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities, where we own the Tri-Cities. Lots of stuff going on locally. Cincinnati Reds, Greenville, Tennessee, Appalachian League. It'll be announced on Friday. Also, Mercer Bears. They come in to take on the first place in red-hot East Tennessee State Buccaneers. The Bucs have won 10 games in a row on the men's basketball court. That's the third longest winning streak in the country. We're not even saying 12 out of the last 13 now. Super Bowl, of course, everybody cares about the Super Bowl and all that. Still no word on Gronkowski. Guest today. It's going to be someone I haven't talked to in a while, but Bob Smizek, who is Johnny Major's favorite sports writer. Okay. He also votes on the Baseball Hall of Fame. Talk to him about I'm always going to remember my Post-Gazette roots, folks. Pittsburgh Post-Gazette roots. And very proud of them. Smizek used to cover Major League Baseball for the Post-Gazette, or was it the Press? I'm trying to remember. Anyway, he covered Major League Baseball. And then he was a columnist for a long time with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And votes on the Baseball Hall of Fame. Did not vote for Vlad Guerrero. We'll talk about that. Who did he vote for? Okay. And that'll be coming up at 1:15. I'm also, in about a half hour, I think I'm going to do a media watch. Got a lot of media stories out there. Just a lot of, normally I see something in the local media, the way it's covered, and I have a problem or a praise for it or what have you. And I like to, put my 2 cents in there, and it drives everyone batty. And they know that if I do compliment them, it is much deserved. But I promised that I was going to tell you this today, and it was the story on Philly fans. Now, with this Eagles-Patriots Super Bowl, I should give you some background. I think I've lived 15 different places, on and off in East Tennessee since 1986. You cannot deny my East Tennessee cred. I don't know too many people around here, for instance, who know more about the history of this area's sports. Trey Williams would be one. But I think you've sensed that I've got a good knowledge of that. Good, maybe even being a modest description. I have, though, and if you go to my Facebook page, you can actually see, I think I've listed all the places that I've lived, and it's surprising. I mean, I've got a lot of stickers on a suitcase, folks. Going from Neuss, Germany. Okay, I was a baby then. All right, I don't speak German outside of 1, 2, 3. That's about it. But from Neuss, Germany, but 2 places that I've lived, obviously, I just told you I wrote for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, but also, Johnson City, Tennessee for a long time. And I know the area, and I know the area's shortcomings, and I know its potential for growth and what it has to offer. One of the great things I think that has is, and this may sound odd to people, but I really do believe in it. Yeah, no income tax. That's a nice thing. As long as you live in the Tennessee part and not the Virginia part. But one thing, the wide open spaces. And we have an ability where we could really, so much as double our population. And we really wouldn't lose the wide open spaces. Think about that. I mean, the Tri-Cities, and there's something to be said for that. You start thinking about urban crime or something like it. A lot of the philosophy is many times it's because there's so many people so close together. And I love cities. I've lived in cities. I would love, nothing against this area, but I would love to know what it would be like to live, say, in Manhattan. I really would. It's kind of appealing, just to me. It's intriguing. On the other hand, and one of the reasons why I kind of feel that way is that I also, many of the places I live, one of them, Little River, North Carolina, population 150, all by myself, top of a mountain, living with my grandparents. That's lonely. I was a lonely kid. So you kind of wanted other people around. There's good and there's bad to what I just, two cities. But there's also something to be said for, as I just said, wide open spaces. Anyway, to the places that I live. I was born actually in Providence, Rhode Island. I did not live there very long. I think by the time I was 18 months old, we had left. Okay. I think we moved to Noyce, actually. One of the other places was Bryn Mawr and Haverford, Pennsylvania, the main line of Philadelphia. These are many, many years ago. These were back in the 70s. Okay, when I'm a little baby or a little boy. I have no memories of Rhode Island. None. And I can remember back to my second birthday. I have no memories of Noyce, Germany. Okay? I do have many memories, however, of the main line. I went there for preschool. I went there for first and second grade. And I am telling you this because of our Super Bowl, which is New England versus Philly. So two places that I have lived, although I really can't relate that much to Providence. And remember this about the New England Patriots. I know, you're thinking Boston. For all intents and purposes, they are Boston. But Foxborough is actually a little closer to Providence, and I do believe the Patriots fly out of Providence. And as I said the other day, it's probably because they want their planes to be on time. Has anyone ever had a plane out of Logan Airport in Boston that was on time? Ever. I never have. More time to eat at the legal seafood in the airport, I give you that, but nevertheless. But anyway, we're 3 days into the Super Bowl hype. And we don't hear so much about Nick Foles, how he'll do against the Patriots, how the Eagles' defense can stop Tom Brady. We don't even hear about, is Rob Gronkowski going to play? Is that concussion going to keep him out? I've thought about this. Who's betting on the Super Bowl right now without the knowledge of whether or not Gronkowski is going to play? I mean, that would seem to be a fool's bet right now to me, not knowing if Gronk is going to play or not. But you know what the number one thing that we're talking about? The behavior of Philly sports fans. They're hitting horses, throwing full beer cans at opponents, fighting amongst each other in the parking lots. You've seen all the social media stuff online. I mean, you've seen, I love the celebrations in Philly. The guy wearing an Eagles head with no shirt on, walking down Chestnut Street or something was just, to me, I don't know. I was reminded of the scene, as I said before, with Motel Hell, if you missed it, where Rory Calhoun with the pig's head and the chainsaw and all that. Only thankfully this guy was not brandishing a chainsaw. I mean, he was just, enjoying himself wearing an eagle's head. And if you had an eagle's head to put on your head, why wouldn't you? I think he stole it from the Swoop costume or something. He was halfway to furrydom. Here we go. But there you go. And by the way, Darwin Walker played at Tennessee. I once did cover an Eagles locker room. It was actually an interview with Darwin Walker. And he just summed it up. Hey, that's just Philly. They care here, and all that. Hold on to that thought. There average 7 arrests at Eagles games. Veterans Stadium, I don't know if they still do this at Lincoln Financial, but Veterans Stadiums once had a makeshift court made up in the bowels of Veterans Stadium to prosecute rowdy fans on the spot. And there is almost a romantic feeling about this. And it's disturbing. The NFL held its draft in Philly last spring. And they promoted the behavior of the Eagles fan base as saying, well, there's nothing else like it. Now, you'd like to have seen them perhaps accompany that with a message of anti-fan violence. And you don't even have to address those old stories about the 700 section at Veterans Stadium or something right here. I mean, you can say, hey, we've got the greatest passion here in the world, but we want to also now spearfront a movement here among NFL fandom, an anti-violence in the stands, movement here. They could have easily done that. They did not. They romanticized the behavior. Now, by the way, when you go to a football game, and I don't care who you are, let's face it, I'm sure many of the listeners, many of the viewers on Facebook, you've gone to football game, or any sporting event really, on the road, and you've worn your team's colors, right? And one of the reasons you do that, come on, you are looking to get a little reaction. Not violence, mind you. But you are looking a little bit, there's that snarky thing where you want to hear that at a guy tell you that you suck. And then you go back and you say, nah, you suck. And hopefully you do it with a smile on your face. I mean, don't get me wrong here. But now you are looking for some, shall we say, healthy friction when you do that. And don't deny it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's something wrong with pummeling somebody from the other team. There's something wrong with Zemo Williams, Chief Z of the Washington Redskins. 30 years ago, the Eagles fans broke his leg at Veterans Stadium. I know Chief Z. Who is breaking Chief Z's leg? It's a car salesman, for crying out loud. Anyway, so I want you to imagine if you're a resident of the city of Minneapolis. You're gonna make it after all. You thought you would just see a weeks-long celebration of your Vikings playing for their first Super Bowl title. Gonna end all those years of coming short all around you. Maybe you were even thinking of splurging, going to the game for a once-in-a-lifetime event. Instead, these people who vanquished you just days before, these rowdy people are now coming to your city. It's like big and rich, only nightmare standard. I mean, Now, for the record, like I said, from early boyhood, parts of ages 3 to 8, I lived on the main line of Philadelphia as my mother earned her PhD from Bryn Mawr College. I attended first and second grade, long closed Bryn Mawr Elementary. I think I was in the last class that was at Bryn Mawr Elementary. And I even attended preschool on the Villanova campus. There you go. It's an interesting experience. I look back at it because here I was, being raised, single mother, and a college student at the time. And the main line, of course, has tremendous wealth. So we didn't have that, but we didn't really realize it either. I mean, I'm 3 to 8. Come on. So we lived for 3 years, that time, across the street from Haverford College. Tough college if you want a Chevy. My grandfather came up with that one. Anyway, Haverford, if you don't know, it's one of the more scenic college campuses in the country. And I spent, many an hour. They've got fields, duck pond, I remember, swing set, walking, playing on the campus, the grounds and all that. Hills, you'd go sledding when it snowed, that sort of thing. But despite that, what I do remember about Philly in that young age is the graffiti when you went into town, and I still think to this day graffiti is like the ugliest thing in the world. I cannot stand it. And I think that's why I always identified more with my grandparents' residence in Columbia, South Carolina, which is actually where I lived, let's see here, after Noyce, before Bryn Mawr, couple of years, being raised by my grandparents. I go summers, spend them in Columbia, that sort of thing. After my mother graduated, we went back to Columbia before she got her fellowship at Pitt, so, it was the way. 86, my mother became a professor at ETSU, if you want to know how we got down here, all right. But anyway, point being that I think I always identified more with Columbia than the main line for that reason. I just never thought that Philly was all that attractive, despite the fact living across the street from Haverford College. But getting back to Philly, and, you talk about the Philly fans and all that. I can remember, even back in those days, you've never heard a place that, yo, Adrian, like Rocky always said, all the time, even by the professionals, they will address you and, yo, You've never heard it anywhere else used. That's Philly, okay? Use, that's another thing The other thing that Philadelphians, they have a natural tendency to pluralize everything. Okay, how much does that cost? $1. Not $1, $1. Even in first grade, I knew that was wrong. It would kill a Philadelphian to use the proper singular noun. But if there is one story I can tell you that I can really recall that sort of explains the culture that Philly is famous for better or worse, it's when we had an assembly in the school gymnasium one day, okay? And you had these things in elementary school, come on, yeah. There was a local outfit of actors, and they were putting a performance on for us on the stage. Okay. And the performance was unusual. It was not what we were used to seeing. I forget exactly what it was, but it was, certainly out of the box. And we did not get it at all. And so, in the second grade, at the age of 7, I, Marky Bilson, along with the classmates of Bryn Mawr Elementary, right outside Philly, age of 7, mind you, second grade, we booed the assembly. We're in second grade. Principal has to come up and get us to stop booing. We're not from South Philly, mind you. We're not from Kensington. That's Rocky Balboa's neighborhood. Okay, remember that one? Yeah, that's not where we're from. We're not from someplace tough. We're from the main line. When we go on the school bus, Rolls Royces pass us. It's not that unusual. We're 7. We boo the assembly. Doesn't everybody? I'm Marky Bilson. A Hall of Fame vote comes out today. ETSU. Mercer. I'm going to do a media watch in a few minutes. Got some sound bites. The Reds. That's going to be official. I'll tell you more about that when we come back. Tri-City Sports Now.
Broadcasting Incorporated.